Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today I want to talk about the map of consciousness and how we can use a logarithmic scale to determine the map of consciousness itself. Now this is brought to you by a man named David Hawkins, who is a PhD. He wrote a book called Map of Consciousness, and it's a very I've only seen the PDF version, but the thing that I want to focus on most is the actual map of consciousness itself. And he has a book. Well, in his book, he has an image of different emotional states and different emotional frequencies per se, or vibrations, and different names for the levels of those emotions that span from anywhere between shame to enlightenment. Now, he uses a logarithmic scale to determine this, and I think it's important to know what a logarithmic scale is. So it's used to determine a large value range in your data set. So it's a nonlinear scale, which means it is a gradual scale that goes up, and it has a point A and point B, basically. Now, with that being said, let's check out here we go, the map by David R. Hawkins. So, again, this is ranging from shame to enlightenment. And you can see here we have shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. So enlightenment is the very top, right? This is the God consciousness per se. And shame is you're basically dead. You're basically living a dead life. Now, it has been my experience that a lot of people with narcissistic trauma and narcissistic abuse operate in the lower 6 or 7 different emotional states here and levels here, which is shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, and anger. Now, a lot of narcissists also, I would say, actually operate in the bottom 5, but the point is that there are a lot of different emotional states that can determine, like, how your emotional state is determines your reality. And this is exactly what this image here is saying. So there's, for each level name, there's also a energetic frequency, which you could consider as a vibration. Now, everything vibrates. This is a basic rule of reality. This is also in the Kybalion. I'm not sure if my audience has heard of the Kybalion, but it is an esoteric text that talks a lot about there's 7 main functions of the universe in there, and that could be a topic for another time. But what I want to focus on today is determining whether or not we can actually use the term vibrations and whether or not we can use the term vibrations as an applicable way to view life. So yes, it is. However, I don't think that it should be our main focus. What our main focus should be, as people that are healing, as people that are on the journey of self-love, we should examine our emotional states and our views of life. I don't think that your vibration level, just because you know what a vibration is, doesn't exactly mean that your emotional state is going to match that vibration. So you may have a vibration understanding of peace, but if you're not living and breathing and thinking thoughts that are in that peaceful state of bliss, you're not going to see life as peaceful. So With that being said, there's different emotional states for each of these levels of consciousness. And the bottom 7, so we have shame, which is the emotional state associated with shame, is humiliation. And then guilt, which is associated with the emotional state of blame, apathy with despair, grief with regret, fear with anxiety, desire with craving, and then anger with hate. Now, these are all very lower level vibrations or emotional states. Now, I'm not saying that you cannot have these emotional states. Obviously, if you're having these emotional states, it means that you're trying to deal with something, or your consciousness is trying to tell you about something that you may or may not know about, and that's going to require healing within you and getting a better understanding of what your situation is and where you're at and where you're going. Now, and taking accountability for the choices you've made. But with that being said, I also think that the view of life in these is very helpful, because helpful to understand. So the way that you raise your vibration, let's say, is you have to actively use your life force to propel you in a certain direction. And there are 3 main ways that I do this each day that I highly recommend anybody adopting. They're very simple. There are 3 things. So the first one is do something physical every day. That can be push-ups, it could be sit-ups, it could be yoga, it could be running, it could be lifting weights, something physical, anything physical every day. And then number 2 is something emotional every day that stimulates your emotions. So this is going to be something to do with creativity. So doing something creative, and whether that's, like, for me, it's playing guitar or painting or writing. Those are the things that I focus on a lot. And then number 3 is doing something intellectual, because you have to have a sharp mind in order to navigate the terrain of life. It's just a fact. Now, you can read for this. You can also write, depending on what you're writing about. You could do like memory, I wouldn't say memory games, like you can do on the internet, but you can do a variety of different things to improve your cognitive functions, whether that's like studying, whether that is getting some kind of education about something, or actively learning something hands-on. So those are 3 things that I do every day. Now, aside from those 3, I also have a meditation routine every day. Meditation is another way to level up your emotional state and your energetic frequency. The reason that this is because, like I've mentioned in a previous video, meditation is a pull-up for your mind. When you meditate, when you come back to the breath, you are actively making a conscious decision to observe the thought or observe the feeling that you have without being attached to it. Now, what exactly does that mean? It's a very good question, because a lot of the times, a lot of these spiritual teachers they don't tell you these things exactly. And it is hard to explain, granted, because it's a very internal process. And the easiest way to go about it, I would say, would be to acknowledge when you're sitting in your chair right now, or wherever you're doing right now. You can practice this with eyes open, eyes closed, whatever. I'm going to do this eyes open. Right now, as I breathe in, I feel the air going through my nostrils and into my lungs. And as I exhale, I feel the air leaving me. I also feel the temperature in the room. I hear the small, minute sounds in the room. I consider myself a very present person when I'm in meditation, because I don't have to think about anything other than just experiencing this moment as it is. And that is what meditation to me really is about, is understanding life as it is and not for what it could be or was. However, when you are in meditation and there are those thoughts about what could be or what was, acknowledge it consciously, make a conscious effort to acknowledge it, and then come back to the breath. Now, it's a very simple exercise, I understand, and a lot of people are thinking, maybe not my subscribers, but a lot of people may be thinking, well, how am I supposed to get trauma healing from that? Well, because you're training your mind to come back to reality. Your mind wants to live everywhere, but you're not your mind per se. You are in a body. You have, a lot of people call it a meat suit. I don't know if I like that term, but you can think about it like that if you want. You have a body, and your body is connected most definitely to the mind, but you are not the body and you are not the mind. You are the acting of consciousness, which is the soul. And the soul is what generates these kinds of emotional states. And so if you're not aware of your emotional state and your view of life, you're going to naturally fall lower on the energetic frequency levels. So living in a harmonious union with yourself will naturally raise your vibration. Also, there's many other ways to raise your vibration. This is not just this isn't a one size fits all kind of a thing, but this is a route. And really what I wanted to do was just introduce this concept of the map of consciousness, because I found it very intriguing and very useful in regards to really navigating my own views of life. So with that being said, I hope this message was informative, and may peace be with you. Stay blessed.